Alright guys, such comic again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Drama hitting the timeline last night. Gunless is back at it again. A video the COD League put out in terms of pre-game food that the players have before they play a match. Gunless certainly has his perspective on nutrition, and he believes that many of these pro players have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. Calling out Dan Ghosty, it seems specifically, but then extrapolating that to the rest of the pros. Dashy doesn't seem to think that that is fair. What do you guys think in the comments below? Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Let's dive right in. It's starting to be fair with this. I know that Scump finally had enough of Warzone and all the hackers and everything over the last few days, and also Splitgate. They launched like a battle royale, and that was getting a lot of traction I think yesterday as well. Scump won his first game on the battle royale, so no real surprises going on over there. I'll share this clip as well for you guys in a few minutes time. I thought it was a nice little piece of the Estriel.10 Breaker Boy podcast that they did, talking about why Estriel didn't compete in Vanguard, because of course Estriel came in not that long ago, right? I mean, it was Modern Warfare 3. He got his opportunity last year on the Los Angeles Guerrillas, and he proved to be, you know, a really solid player. He didn't win Rookie of the Year in the end. That went to Gwinn. But Estriel with LAG, they got that remarkable top 3 placement at the end of the season. And in terms of LAN results, you know, you could argue that Estriel deserved that Rookie of the Year last season. And this year he's been pretty solid on Rookie. He started actually very well, but then it, you know, kind of went downhill a little bit for Estriel as time went on. I know that Don said the next time he's going to put his camera in a better spot so the microphone isn't in the way. But, you know, early days, we're going to figure things out in due course. But this is the drama that I wanted to get into here from Pierce Gunless Hillman, right? So, you know, here's Gunless on, I mean, if you guys were watching here back in the day, wow, this really does bring me back. So this is Burns on the far left-hand side, who used to be a player for Curse and other teams back in the day. This, of course, is Silly, who is, you know, like a pretty legendary player in some respects. Or maybe I'll call him a notorious player or infamous player or something like that. He obviously had his controversy in his time. I think he went to college to do college COD as well, but he's also a world champion. I know that Silly kind of holds the title of being considered, and I don't mean this in like an offensive way at all, because, you know, at the end of the day, he is a world champion, right? Which is, you know, like more than the vast majority of even obviously COD professionals achieve, let alone us donkeys watching from home. But most people consider Silly to be like the worst world champion, whether you think that's fair or not, because he won it with Evil Geniuses in that World War II season with the, you know, I wouldn't call it a fluke run, but you could run that tournament 100 times, and it doesn't happen very often that Evil Geniuses win champs in World War II with Aches, with aBeZy, with Assault, and with Silly. That was the team of 4. Of course, it was Aches and aBeZy's second ring after aBeZy won in 2016 on Black Ops 3 and Aches won in 2014 on Ghost, and it was Assault's first and only ever event victory. But to be fair to Silly, it wasn't, you know, his only win, right? Maybe, you know, like maybe the, I don't know, charge to go to Assault or something, right? Because Silly was part of this legendary E United team as well. Silly, Arcetes, pristinely Gunless. And this is Atlanta, right? When they went on to win, just because I remember like how Gunless just didn't even have a jersey. It was such an awesome time in COD in many respects. If you guys remember what was happening at the time. So these guys, Arcetes, Pristini, were a little bit notable at the end of Black Ops 3. They played BO3 champs on a team called Apotheon Esports, I think. And then they picked up Silly kind of towards I think they were on a team called the Gosu Crew. And then they ended up with Silly going into Atlanta. They picked up Gunless, and Gunless was just crushing it online. This guy would just be dropping bombs against OpTic in scrims and in 2Ks. I remember watching the 2Ks, and the topic in the community was, this Gunless guy gotta be cheating. Like, who even is this Gunless guy? I never heard of him. He's dropping like 40 bombs on the Dynasty, right? Like, this guy's an onliner, like he's keyboarding, or something's going on, right? When we get to LAN, it's gonna be a different story. But they turned up to LAN, and they won it, right? They won Atlanta. I think they were second Dallas. Gunless had this crazy map on Retaliation Search. He dropped like 18 kills. So it was just such a cool time because these players, people knew about Silly because he was a veteran from like COD, like literally COD 4. But these other 3 guys, nobody had ever really heard of. And yet they formed this team. They turned out they were really good at the game and they made the run. And it's like, this is the story that makes you look back at franchising and think, damn, you know, we might have missed opportunities like this, because this was one of the wildest Cinderella runs you're going to see. And then, of course, these guys became staples of the scene and went on to do amazing things. But, you know, maybe Gunless will look back at his career, the decisions that he made and the decisions, you know, just being a difficult teammate at times that led him down a different path to some others, to the point where Silly, Arsties, Pristini, all world champions, Gunless is not. Now, let's talk. Gunless still is a great player, though, and we'll get into what he had to say on this in a second. But this was the video, anyway, that the COD League put out. So they do, what's your go-to meal before you start your day? And we've got we've got Bean saying, you know, just a little Chipotle, nothing too heavy, like, because, you know, I don't really know exactly what the science of nutrition says. You want to be well fed, right? You want to be prepared, but also you don't want to be having something that is, you know, let's say difficult to digest because it takes the blood away from your brain, stuff like this. Ideally, you want to make sure you're, you know, well satiated, but maybe, you know, quick fire, sugar bursts, that type of stuff might be the way to go before you play a match. So it's an interesting question for the pros, because it's been a big development over the last few years. What, you know, sports science, certainly in esports, obviously sports science has been a thing now for a long time, but in esports it's relatively new, and we still get talks about, you know, the performance coaches, you know, the players are still getting up at like 2 p.m. every day or whatever. They get it on late for scrims. So the idea that the players are super like locked into nutrition and all these other factors, you know, some teams definitely are more than others. We know that some teams have performance coaches, which absolutely have some eye on this type of stuff. It was true for the NRG Valorant team. They literally had a chef that would cook them their meals every day to make sure that they were well prepared. That type of stuff doesn't really happen here in COD, and it doesn't seem like the players really think that much about it. They just have what they feel like. So Bean says he's rocking a Chipotle. Then we get this from Ghosty, who says he's going to get a sandwich on the way and then some pasta. Nothing too heavy. So this was the one that caught Gunless's attention, and we'll get to this in a second. So Shotzzy says he just basically does whatever he wants, subs on a breakfast thing, and Ghosty says after matches he'll get some McDonald's, some Taco Bell, some fast food spots. So, you know, Nero's rocking the Chipotle as well. Huke knows what he's doing, man. This is what I'm talking about. Look at this guy go. He's smashing the banana before the series. Like, Huke knows ball. Cellium says, yep, like something small to get you ready for go for the series. Anyway, that's what they're talking about, and this caught Gunless's attention. So Gunless did a tweet. Man, pro players have zero F and IQ. Yeah, I just eat some pasta before game day, nothing heavy. Like, sir, that's quite literally one of the heaviest things you can eat. So, you know, obviously Gunless was making his point pretty clear, primarily to Ghosty, really, because Ghosty was the one that talked about the pasta, and yeah, totally understand it. Now, I don't know, like, exactly, because back in the day, I don't know how Gunless would approach this when he was competing in the Pro League, whether it's been a development that he's kind of made over time. But I do find it fascinating how in esports, certainly COD esports, like, things are so new in many respects, that the concept of like what you should eat to play the best isn't really like a conversation that's ever really been had. Back in the day, Crimsix would just say, oh, illy, whatever, eat big, play big. That was the logic, right? But, you know, nowadays we know a bit more about that and the way that your nutrition should probably go. And I don't know if this is necessarily, like, it doesn't seem like Cellium or the FaZe guys or whatever, like, super locked in. Neither is Ghosty, to be fair, because, you know, or even Beans, I guess. I don't really know what you should eat exactly, but my perception would be that performance coaches would try and get on top of this type of stuff for the players and, you know, basically choose what they eat and when and all these things. And probably at events, that's more easy to do. When you're playing an online qualifier, it's like, well, you know, whatever. If you want to go get Chipotle, if you want to have pasta and then come play the series, it is what it is. But you would expect the teams like FaZe, like Thieves, Toronto, that have these performance coaches that we talked about quite some time, a couple of months ago, potentially being beneficial, would be on top of this type of stuff. But doesn't always necessarily seem to be the case. So yeah, tweet your thoughts in the comments anyway, what your guys' perception is. But Gunless was not backing down on this. So Parasite says the kind of age-old adage, eat big, play big, right? Which is how the players used to think. But and some players still do. As Gunless says, professional athletes tend to carb load the day before an important game day, but to do it on game day and then claim it's not heavy is just insane. So obviously there's going to be some logic about this, athletes, we're talking about video games. So I do get it. Like, I'm on Gunless' side of this story, right? Like, in my opinion, like, I don't think, I wouldn't call the pro players athletes, right? I think that's too far. But the same logic still applies, that if you're trying to perform your best, because, you know, your brain, it needs to be locked in. And, you know, everyone knows if you have a heavy lunch afterwards, if you eat stuff that ain't great for you, you feel like going to sleep. Your brain doesn't have the energy to do it because your body's got to focus elsewhere. Just standard science, really. So even though they're not like athletes, my feeling is that the same logic should still apply. So I think Gunless isn't necessarily wrong. Certainly if I was coaching a team, I'd be all over this type of stuff. And maybe I'd bring Gunless in as my assistant coach advisor. So anyway, I don't know if Ghosty's gonna like reconsider the situation after this, because it's not like Ghosty's been playing bad, but it's just something that maybe could give you a 1%, 2% advantage over your rivals if you're eating better than they are and preparing better, if you're, you know, popping a banana like Huke is, rather than something else. So Ghosty, of course, realizes that this was addressed at him and says, I ate pasta the day before. Sorry, I should have prefaced that, Piers. You're a beast. So, this is, Ghosty is seemingly following the Piers, Gunless, Hillman advice of carb loading the day before, and then during, before the series, then you just pop like a little snack or whatever to make sure you've got that quick energy to execute in the moment. So, Ghosty was getting called out. Bad says, at Ghosty, bro, fight back. And Ghosty says, you know what, actually, Gunless, you're kind of right. The pasta I have the day before the series, but not true for some necessarily of the other guys. And then Dashy decided, you know what, Gunless, I'm not happy with this. I'm going to give my perspective on it, because, look, while I do agree with Gunless's overall sentiment, the way that he goes about it and says that pro players have zero IQ is pretty funny, right? Because, look, the whole video maybe wasn't great, but clearly not all the players, such as Dashy's teammate in Huke, with the banana strategy. We know that Scump, that's what Scump used to eat, right? You guys remember? Scump smashing a banana like during the series. That was his like go-to food, and it makes a lot of sense in my opinion if you like bananas. Even if you don't, you should still eat them anyway, in my opinion. But Dashy says, you heard one pro does that, and he doesn't even do it, right? Because as Ghosty clarified, and generalized it to all pros have zero IQ. So, Dashy clapping back at Gunless, it seems, on this one. Pac-Man then says, I was around TJHaLy, so now I just assume all pros can't read. So, Dashy says, I got the jungle smoke down. Of course, we're talking Counter-Strike, we're talking having a good time in the off-season. But, that's pretty much, we're going to leave that topic for today. If you ever want to join your thoughts in the comments, just a couple of Lion Man cards to close out the video here. This was the 100 Thieves cards from back in BO4, where they nearly won the World Championship, but in the end they did not. They made a remarkable run from the first round of losers. They made the greatest reverse sweep in the history of COD against FaZe. They were down 2-0, 2-0, 9-2 in lives in the third round of Control. They won the 9-2 live count deficit rounds. They won the next 2 rounds. They won the hardpoint. They won the search and destroy. And then they won every single series they played in losers after that until they lost in the grand finals to United. So pretty legendary stuff. Very much into your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.
Yeah. What was your first year competing?
Cold War, but that's like a fake year, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
okay, where was your first?
That shit was online only. I ain't really like. Nah, that shit was fake.
Cold War was trolly. All right, so Vanguard, you played for real.
Nah, I didn't even play Vanguard. I thought I was like the next, like, I thought I was like Aiden or something. I was trying to play Warzone. I'm not. I try to play Warzone, bro.
Okay.
So I fucked myself over. Cause I ain't gonna lie, I was screaming Vanguard. I got, bro, the first week or two, I got no dope. I'm really loading up, like, bro, this shit is terrible. Like,
damn.
I'm loading up Gavudu hardpoint. I'm like, I'm checked.
That map was bad.
I'm like, I'm about to play war, like, and we're getting cooked in scrims. Like, I don't even know what's going on, bro. We getting, I'm shooting my gun every map. I feel like we getting cooked. It was me, Flames, Flames, Wiz, and Turel.
Oh, okay. That's not that bad.
No, well, yeah, like we had a little decent team, and I quit, and like, I seen like Turel and Wiz, they were good at Vanguard. So I'm like, I don't know. I guess I was the problem. Like, fuck it, bro. Whatever, bro. I quit. I quit like the first week, and then Jay followed me up, so we both just chalk Vanguard.